So maybe you've been podcasting for a while now, or maybe you're getting ready to start a new podcast, and creating video for that podcast is really important to what you're trying to do. But maybe it's also the one thing that's stopping you from doing that thing because video podcasting feels a little bit more complicated than just sitting down behind a microphone to talk. Well, today I want to help you break that barrier by simplifying the process of creating a video podcast, and I'll do it in 3 phases. Let's get into it. Right off the bat, let me give you the 3 phases that we're going to talk about in this video. It's the pre-production, the production, and the post-production of your video content. We'll talk about each of those as we go in this video, but first, I want to tell you a little bit about Riverside FM. And the reason I want to tell you about Riverside is because it's the best tool and resource that I've found for creating and simplifying this process. So let's jump into the Riverside Studio and I'll tell you a little bit about why I love this tool. So once you sign into Riverside, this is what it's going to look like on your screen. Now, obviously, I have a lot of other studios and a lot of other recordings that I've done, but I want to show you what it looks like inside of a Riverside studio. And you can see it here on the screen. You'll have split screen. You'll see everybody on the screen if you have multiple people on your podcast. But one of the features that I love, you'll see at the top of the screen, I pasted a script from a recent episode, and I can click teleprompter and it will show it right here on my screen. This allows you to maintain eye contact with the people that you're talking to and never lose your next thought or your next question. Now, let me back out of the studio and show you a couple of the other features that really help with post-production. This is a recording that I did for a recent episode of Good Podcasting, and it will show you have a transcript here on the left-hand side of the screen that they say is 99% accurate. And to be quite honest, I can't argue very much. My last several episodes have been right on the money. You can edit from this transcript. You can edit from the audio file down below. It also features multi-track sync, which means if you have multiple people on your podcast, it will sync up all the audio tracks to ensure nothing is misaligned in the final product. The newest feature that I found the most helpful is the AI show notes generator. If you click this button here, it's going to take a little bit. It's going to take a couple seconds. But what it does is it scans your entire transcript and it provides you really detailed show notes with an episode summary, key takeaways, and even chapter markers for your podcast. So those are some of the features that I love about Riverside. If you're interested in trying it out for yourself, there's a link below in the description. Click that link and use code GOODPODCASTING, and you'll receive 15% off of your subscription. Now, let's get back into this video. So as you begin to create your video podcast, there's 3 phases that I already mentioned: pre-production, production, and post-production that you really have to think about. Pre-production is that phase of creation where you're doing some research, you're generating your title, you're writing your script or your outline, or even thinking through what your content is going to be. You're setting up, you're making sure your lights are in place, your camera's set up in just the right spot. That's all pre-production. Now, there's a lot that could go into that pre-production phase, but it doesn't really have to be that complicated. Just put as much research in as you feel like you need to. Make sure you have an outline, a general idea of where you're starting and where you're going with your podcast. Get your stuff set up. If you're interested in how to do that, I'll post some links in the description that will help you with your lighting and your camera setup, and you can check that out. So that's your pre-production phase. The production phase of your podcast is sitting down to actually record. This is the fun part. This is the part where you get to look at the camera, set up your microphone, and just do your podcast. This is the part that everybody wants to do. The pre-production, yeah, you have to do it. The post-production, a lot of people outsource. But if you're going to do it yourself, have fun with the production, set it up the way you want it to in pre-production, and it's going to make this last phase, the post-production, even easier. You see, post-production is where you're doing your edits, where you're splicing your content together. If you do many edits, a lot of people like this to feel live. And so if you don't want to edit a whole lot, you don't have to edit a whole lot. That's up to you. Your post-production, though, you will want to pay attention to your sound to make sure your sound levels are where they need to be. -12 as a recording level in the production phase is perfect because it gives you plenty of headroom to adjust if you need to boost your audio, boost your gain, or bring it down a little because it sounds a little too loud. So your post-production phase is you're editing your content, you're mixing your sound, you're putting it all together, and you're posting it and sending it out to the world. So those are the 3 phases of creating a video podcast. It sounds complicated and feels like a giant mountain to climb when you're first starting out, and it can be in your first couple episodes. I don't want to pretend like this is super easy, but it doesn't have to be super complicated. So don't let it get in your way. Put the time in for the pre-production. The more time you spend there, the easier the production and the more fun the production phase goes, and the easier the post-production phase will be. Don't forget, if you want to try Riverside, there's a link in the description for 15% off. Just use code GOODPODCASTING at checkout, and you'll receive that 15% off of your subscription. If you have questions about podcasting, anything I talked about in this video, or anything at all related to podcasting, I would love to hear them. Just drop me a note in the comments or send me an email to info@summitcitystudios.com or hit me up on Instagram. I'll see you in the next video.